Good evening and welcome to the Transcontinental Times show, Smart Entrepreneurship Decoded. Every week, I bring you a guest from the entrepreneurship world from all dimensions. Sometimes an investor, sometimes an entrepreneur, sometimes a lawyer, people whose journeys have been unique, people who give you that one fact, one tip, one idea that will help you achieve your entrepreneurship dreams. We try to cut away the superfluous, cut away all the usual sugar candy and coated stories that we get, and try to get a few nuggets that will help us in the real world. Last night I was watching a movie. It was a great movie. It was about a sports person who rises above all adversity to become a star, a world number one. It struck me that we all love underdogs. Whatever field of life they are in, we love seeing an underdog battle all odds and with sheer tenacity, grit, determination, and self-belief, overcome the odds and succeed. That story and that journey has some degree of nobility to it, some grace to it, and appeals to us at the core because each one of us goes through adversity in our life in our own way. And every one of us thinks our adversity is the worst anybody can see. But if you put your hand on your heart and look around you objectively, you will find people whose stories are even more dramatic than yours and worthy of becoming a movie. Let me tell you one. There was a boy, young boy, living with his family, a nice, comfortable life in South Africa. There was a tragic accident and he lost his father. He was still in school, very young. He had to move back to India with his mother, face extreme adversity, and his mother propelled him and motivated him to go ahead in life, study further. He chose to do chartered accountancy, among many reasons, one of the main ones being the fee was really low, or almost no fee, and in fact, you got a small stipend. He was not a brilliant student. In fact, in his 11th standard, he probably flunked even mathematics. But he pursued CA with a single-minded focus and determination. But there too, there was a problem. On a holiday in Shimla, a chance encounter with an astrologer, and this young boy pursuing CA wanted to know his future. So he went to this astrologer and asked him, will I complete my CA successfully? And this is one of the toughest exams in India. And the astrologer said, no, you won't. Broke his heart, but he did not give up. And adversity can either confine you or define who you will be in future. In this case, it defined him he will be in the future. He became the youngest CA of India at that time at the age of 22. From there, he set up his own company and today is one of the leading strategists when it comes to company strategy, marketing, go-to-market, or customer experience. He has accompanied even the Prime Minister on trade delegations overseas. And now he is an accomplished and very astute angel investor as well. This is not a story from Bollywood. This is the story of our guest tonight, Mr. Kapel Malhotra, but it is not a complete story. He is still at the interval, and I wish him the very best for the second half, which I know will be even more dramatic and where he will scale higher highs. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Kapel Malhotra to the show tonight.
Thanks, Nalin. Thanks for having me here.
Kapel, you've had an interesting journey. So I'm going to start with a question that has got nothing to do with all of this. Now, you had that adverse experience with an astrologer, yet I noticed that you've changed the spelling of your name from Kapil to Kapel. Have you started believing in numerology now?
Absolutely, absolutely. So it was a year ago that I came across a bunch of youngsters who came to me and they said that they have an algorithm which does some predictions. And long story short, I gave them a list of my startups. I said, why don't you tell me what rank they are in? And I thought they'll come back after a week. They came back in 30 minutes on 22 companies they analyzed on various variables, and they gave me a ranking of 1 to 22 of different companies. I could not even change one of the company up and down from 19 to 20. And I said, how did you guys do it? And I thought in my mind, even if they did some internet research, I would hire them as business analysts, because in 30 minutes, if you can analyze 20 plus companies, that's a great feat. Uh, the conversations went on, and I started understanding the science, which I didn't earlier. And going back to the Shimla astrologer, maybe he was right. I did become a chartered accountant, but what he also had said at that point of time, that Kapil beta, आप कुछ बहुत सारे काम करेंगे, you'll have many companies under you, is what he meant. So maybe he saw ahead of what I would do as a chartered accountant. And hence, I'm clarifying what I had said
That's
earlier. That,
cool. That
yeah.
gives hope to amateur astrologers like me that are, old age, we can still practice and we'll have customers. But Kapil, a lot of people start off young, face adversity, overcome it, and reach a certain position in life. Like yourself, there are very few who do it as successfully as you with single-minded focus. And all those qualities that get you till here, the determination, self-belief, grit, tenacity, when you come to this stage where you have something to lose now, earlier you had nothing to lose, right? You have something to lose now. You are in midlife. Uh, you have a company. There are employees dependent on you. Your family is dependent on you. People are dependent on a certain level of the quality of life, etc.
Sure.
How do you motivate yourself from here? How do you propel from here? Because a lot of executives become entrepreneurs in midlife. How do you find the motivation now?
So first of all, let me candidly admit that it's not an easy job. As you rightly said in the beginning of your talk, that the idea is not to have sugar-coated conversations. It's real, hard facts, and to the point. So from my perspective, I believe that human beings, by DNA, uh, are life forms that evolve. Our physical characteristics might have evolved and have evolved, but so has our brain. So has our brain power evolved. So has our ESP evolved. Uh, and I believe that whatever stage of life that you're in, whether in your 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, uh, you will find a sense of motivation only if you don't underestimate yourself. I think a lot of us. So I was talking to my daughter yesterday in the morning when I went for my cycling bit. I sent her a voice note and I said, Omya, don't underestimate yourself. I think a lot of us underestimate ourselves, and that is the reason for demotivation. So just don't do that. I think you'll get the motivation.
So I have interacted with you over the past 3 or 4 years and watched you, evaluate companies, etc. And you just alluded to the fact that you have a portfolio of startups that you've invested in. What makes you invest in a company? What is it that you look for?
So again, two clear things. One is the problem that they're solving.
Okay.
Right. So I was talking to someone today, Bangalore-based startup, and I really saw that they were solving the SMB, small and medium enterprises business problems in the country. I love that flavor, because the big boys are the big boys. They've figured it out and they'll figure it out. What about the guys at the bottom in the middle of the pyramid? They need all their help. And that is what they were addressing. So for me, that was bingo. I liked what they were solving.
Okay.
And the second thing is the quality of the founders. Now, by quality, I don't mean education. I don't mean where they come from. Is that during that conversation, you get to know about how they think. Like one of the things I told them that, I might not invest or I might not do a deal with you, but I would always be happy to get a call and help you out and give you some advice. They said the same thing to me. They said, sir, Kapil, if you need any help from us, anything, if we can help some of your startups, we would be more than happy, to do that. So, and you could make out that they were doing it, they were saying it in a very genuine way, not just to please me. So I think the quality of the founders, Nalin, and the problem that you solve, definitely
Okay.
these two.
So, how big is the problem, and the credibility and quality of the founders? Those are two interesting ones. So, talk to me about when you evaluate. You've, for example, taken a decision because your desk must be full of people coming, right? We are all bombarded by people who have an idea. There's nothing more frustrating than that. So, the ones you discard or don't invest in, what is one common flavor you find in them?
Uh, I think, it's very difficult for an entrepreneur uh, or an angel investor, someone who's a mentor by nature, to discard anything. You know, it's like a buffet. You would like to try everything, but yeah, you can't have all of them because your appetite is only that much. Yes, if you can figure out a way to have more of an appetite, you'd like to have everything. So normally what I do, if I realize that the pitch was not great, or if the startup was not able to explain what they're really going to solve, or if I feel that they're only solving a part of the problem and not the entire universal problem, I would never reject them, right? Because they've come to this stage in their thinking ability. I would channel and challenge them to come back to me after a week, a month, or after a few months, and I'll tell them these are areas that you're missing out on, right? And if you get them solved, I would like to hear you again. So in philosophy, my philosophy is not of rejection. My philosophy is, let's give them that rope and let them come back.
With the startups you invest in, do you get personally involved in the strategy, or do you let them do their stuff and you just guide them from behind the scenes? What kind of investor are you?
Yeah, no, there are a few things. I would say I'm a pretty hands-on strategic investor. A few things that I
Mhm.
get involved in. So day-to-day micro operations and all, definite no. Finances, compliances, yes, I will guide them, and then I will get some of my team members to get involved in that. But go to market is something that I would love to help them and advise them, open doors. I believe is that as an investor, if you're able to get 10 purchase orders for your company, or if I'm able to get you 5 of them, you're an investable entity. The only thing that you need to ensure is that your execution. So they will always remain the captains of the ship. You know, I might, just be a lighthouse at times and tell them where not to go get into, or tell them where to go. The rest, they do everything themselves. If that answers your question.
Yeah. So you mentioned two things there, and you set up a company to do this.
Yes.
One is, in my personal experience, very few entrepreneurs understand what is strategy versus tactics. Everybody talks plans, nobody has talks strategy. So between a wish or a vision, which they think is a vision, and tactical plan, that strategy is missing one. And a key component of that is go to market. Where is your customer? Who is that person? How will you reach them? Do you find that gap as well among entrepreneurs?
Yes, because the funding world is opened up. Everyone thinks of, let's get money and then let's create the product and do the MVP and then reach out and then figure things out, which is fine. Everyone has a part of their journey that they want to play with or they want to go on. But I always believe that getting testimonials, or like, for example, I was in Dubai last year, and what we did with a company, they were talking about setting up their R&D lab and looking at how to use new technologies. I said, why are you doing that? Just create a cohort program where you get 10 startups who work on the R&D and they solve your problem, and the one that really does, or the ones that do, you give them the order and you bring them, you give them business from Dubai. And that is what we did. Now the startups were happy that their international markets opened. Obviously, the client was someone that had a name in the market, so it adds to their you know portfolio as well. And it also puts them into the process of thinking to execute. How do you deliver, and how do you deliver right? which is very important. And then you move up to a notch higher. How do you deliver first time right? So it's not that you get into iterations. You start thinking that let me satisfy the client in one go. Even if the client will give you some feedback to improve it, but you're at 70%, you're at 80%, maybe you're at 90%. So I think go to market is very important. And hence putting the strategy in your work, in your startup journey is very important. Plans, tactical plans are brilliant, but working on a strategy which gives you a long-term vision is very critical for people to chart out. Now, whether it's easy, the answer is no. Whether it's going to be accurate, again, the answer may be yes or no. But yes, you have to wear that hat of thinking like a strategist in a company, and everyone in the organization should do that, not only the founders.
Interesting. So, one of the things that I experience often meeting with young founders is the valuation puzzle. It's difficult, right? Even being CAs, you are one, I am one, even being CAs, we know early stage startup valuation is hogwash. You can put what you want to it. But often we struggle with founders coming and asking of valuations without creating any value or sufficient value. But we like the idea, we like the company, we like the founders. How do you manage that expectation with the founder? Because you can really take this company from here to here. There is something really to do, but they've got all this nonsense filled in their head about what a valuation should be.
Well, yeah, I won't call it nonsense, but yeah, but at times it's not. As you said, there's no method to it. But anyways, when someone pitches to me, and sometimes when the value I think where it's not being cut out, so you can use various methods, a discounted cash flow, you can do various ways, you can do projections, you can do multiple things to put your valuation and your projected valuation. All of that is projected, right? It's not something that you're doing today, right? And even if you're doing something today, you're projecting the 3 years ahead. Things can change. Look at what has happened during COVID. But what I think is important for an entrepreneur, valuation is important because you're going to dilute at a particular percentage for a particular value. The question is that, are you able to raise money ahead at a higher value so that you can give return to the previous one? So I was watching this thing on the OTT platform where, some of our top companies on the stock exchange have always given shareholders their value.
Yes.
Over years, consistently, not over the last 1 or 2 years as a blip, over the last 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, 25 years, 30 years, and more as blue chip companies. Now, how do they do that is what the startups need to realize. And imagine, Columbus or Vasco da Gama, when they were pitching that we're going to cross this land, across the ocean, go to another place, and that land will be full of milk and honey. That was a tall order, right? And there was no Excel at that time. But they were able to raise money on something that no one knew.
That's true.
Now, what did they value and how did they value? Well, I'm sure. I mean, I call them as the earliest startups maybe, or the earliest entrepreneurs, I would say.
Oh, I never thought of it that way. But yes, now that you say it, it makes sense. I often tell these founders, that even zero is a number. Don't discount it. When you see these fancy projections, sometimes it's hard to make people understand. Talk to me about a couple of successful companies that you've invested in. What has given you the greatest pleasure or pride?
So one currently, which we're doing some great work, is a company by the name Genuine Mark, and it's on anti-counterfeiting and supply chain traceability. We raised money from a couple of marquee investors, Dilip Cherian from Perfect Relations, Vivek Bhargav from Dentsu, and they put money at a very early stage. And when I was working with Ayush, the founder, what we realized is that for the first 1 year, the money that came in, we actually didn't use that money at all. It was in an FD. Now, what did it mean is that we were making money from our clients. Mm-hmm. And now, just a month ago, there was another investor who looked at our data room and he said, I'm surprised that you didn't use those few lakh rupees, and we said, yeah, because we were prepared for getting the millions and making that count, and that obviously gave a lot of confidence. But from a strategy perspective, what did we do? Since you talked about strategy, Nalin, I'll just speak on that for 30 seconds. For genuine mark, what we realized is that we were talking about anti-counterfeiting. So we thought, what is the best source for us? And now I'm opening the secret in one way, and it's on a public forum. So we realized that if we go to the Ministry of Consumer Affairs, that's where most of the complaints are done by the citizens of India against products that they're not happy with. Now, the customer does not know whether they counterfeit or whatever. They're going to put a complaint against it. We realized that those are the products that were being counterfeit the most. And that was the source for us. So that was our strategy, right? And then we converted those clients. So I would say Genuine Mark has done very well for itself. Another company, Wobot, which is into computer vision, Sequoia invested in them last year. Incidentally, last year during COVID has been pretty kind to us from a financial perspective. And there's one now that we're doing, Be Himalayans. We're trying to democratize the Himalayan products like honey and other products and taking it across the globe, not only in India, taking the Indian story abroad in terms of the products that we have. And I'm very proud of these companies and all of them that are in the portfolio. Okay, just mention three.
So in today's pandemic hit world, and this situation of on-off will continue for the foreseeable future, though people think suddenly everything will become normal, it's likely that next 2-3 years will be like this. What would your advice be to budding entrepreneurs, those who are just starting out? What are the industries and sectors they should think of?
So, I think the common ones that everyone would say would be pharma and healthcare and all of that. But I think all the existing industries that existed earlier, like travel, it's coming back with a bang. I would say, like during this time, like you saw the other day in newspaper that the Himachal roads were choked because of travelers going there.
Yeah.
I mean, it's been very tough for them over the last couple of years because all the hotels have. But look at the boutique hotels concept, the homestays, all that has picked up. So my advice to budding entrepreneurs is that keeping COVID as something in mind, not for the next 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, even more maybe. I mean, we would want it to vanish tomorrow morning. But look at behavior. Behaviors have changed. You're sitting in Indonesia. I'm sitting in Delhi today. We're having this call. Maybe earlier we would think of getting together and sitting in a studio and doing this together, right?
Sure.
Things have changed. So behavior has changed. This behavior is going to stay in the mind even after COVID goes. Why don't you work on this behavior and create products that are future proof, And I think in one way, this is a great time because a lot of things are getting reset, Like on one of my previous interviews, what I was saying is that kind of people are getting on this starting line. Almost everyone is together now. I mean, someone might be ahead a little bit, but it's a great reset. And gone are the days that Googles and Facebooks are going to be way ahead of you. Any great tech company today that starts today in the next 5 years can give these giants a run for their money. As would not happen 50 years ago where you're comparing yourself to a General Electric. No, you would not be there. But now is the time.
So you think for people it's a great opportunity. It's a reset. It's a great level up.
Yeah, I mean, irrespective of the time, maybe 50 years ago, someone would give the same advice. And I think maybe this time might not come again. So
That's true.
Make the most out of it.
It's so interesting you say that because, it's in these adversities that some of the greatest unicorns have been founded or greatest companies.
Exactly.
I mean, 40% of the Fortune 500 companies were founded in the last financial crash of 2008. So it's
Absolutely.
Sometimes it's hard to fathom that this could be a time of opportunity because people are so distressed. But if you look at the money in the world, the rich have got richer. There is more money in the world than there was by a disproportionate amount. It may be printed money, but it's still there.
Yeah. And more problems to solve, right?
True. So when you look at India with all its on the cusp of the next boom, now it's been on the cusp for a few years now, but on the cusp of the next huge upliftment in its GDP, etc., grow to 5 trillion economy, which is more than double of what we are now. It's going to open up huge opportunities because moving from 500 billion to a trillion is one thing, but moving from 1.5, 2 trillion to 5 is huge.
Right.
what are the things you are likely to focus on for the next 10 years? You're also on the cusp of the best years of your, working life. What is it that you want to focus on? Because you're a man of so many interests and tremendous energy. I have seen you at work. What is it that you are focusing on?
So, maybe when you're in your mid 40s, you start thinking of more things that can impact. It's not that a 22-year-old might not. Maybe my daughter is even wiser than me when she thinks about the type of business models that she would like to create. Because for me, maybe it is survival. For her, it's uh, creating a legacy or something like that. So, yeah, I think impact businesses for sure. Health, wellness. Um Mental health is something that I think is going to be very important for a lot of people during the last few months. There are going to be a lot of grief anniversaries coming up. People have gone through torrid times. Physical health has been hit. So I think wellness, health is something for sure. And I think, you know, the element of spirituality in education and in living, if someone can create something on those lines to have a very fulfilling thing. Success doesn't make you sleep better, but you being in a good space, irrespective of where you are, would make you sleep better. And losing sleep is very easy, right? So I think
So
my take, yeah,
let me just scrape on that a little bit because I am running an education company here in Indonesia. The most impacted sector in COVID is education. More than 60% of the world population is affected because of education disruption. And you are saying if we can find a blend of with spirituality, if I heard you right, is that what you're saying?
yes. I think, uh, every 50 years I saw a trend that things were changing, telecom, aviation, technology. But now the change is obviously much faster. It's every decade, and maybe now it's getting even faster. Human beings, by nature, the greed is there. Let's make more money, let's make more money, let's make more billions, let's make more money. But COVID has taught us that by doing all of that, can someone buy health if he has $1 billion in his bank? Can he avoid the aftermath of what is happening? Going to Mars is not going to solve it, clearly, because you're going to do the same in Mars because your mindset is the same as human beings. We're always plundering, right? We have been born on a planet that was there before us, right? I think all of us need to realize that it's not about being responsible and accountable. It's a way of living, which we guys need to totally change, right? And I'm not going to make any comments out here, but you saw what our famous footballer did the other day on a press conference. He removed 2 bottles of Coke, and he said Aqua. So I think, and people liked it. I mean, I'm sure the company didn't because they lost $4 billion. But what I'm trying to say, and a lot of big brands have you know have admitted that 60% of their portfolio is unhealthy. So admitting means that they are looking to change it. It's not that they're just saying it. So I think we as human beings need to admit a lot of things that we need to change as well. And I believe, Nalin, as you said, the education system has to be extremely holistic. It has to be very personal to each kid, to each person. You can't score better than me. I can't score better than you because we are different individuals. We're good at our own things. The education system has to bring the best out of every kid, every learner in a very empowering way. How can you compare me lesser than you because you have a better mark? I don't think that's fair.
Well said. That is why SDG goals have become so important. You find the millennials more paranoid about it than us. And ESG funds are dictating investment behavior and entrepreneurship behavior. People can have as many plan A's to plan Z's for their business, but there's no plan B for the planet, that we only have one.
Very well said.
So, Kapil, thank you very much. It has been an absolute delight to have you. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your insights. I meant it when I said your life movie is at an interval. I watch you very carefully because I know you're meant for greater heights, and I wish you the very best.
Thank you so much, Nalin. It's a pleasure, and
Thank you.
it's a pleasure having you as a friend and as a
Thank you,
well-wisher.
Kapil. All the best.
Cheers.